Jesus told his disciples there was a rich man whose manager was accused of wasting his possessions. So he called him in and asked him, "What is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management, because you cannot be manager any longer." The manager said to himself, "What shall I do now? My master is taking away my job. I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm ashamed to beg. I know what I'll do so that when I lose my job here, people will welcome me into their houses." So he called in each one of his master's debtors. He asked the first, "How much do you owe my master?" 900 gallons of olive oil, he replied. The manager told him, "Take your bill, sit down quickly, and make it 450. Then he asked the second, "And how much do you owe?" 1,000 bushels of wheat, he replied. He told him, "Take your bill and make it 800. The master commended the dishonest manager because he'd acted shrewdly. For the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much, and whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? And if you've not been trustworthy with someone else's property, who will give you property of your own? No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. So the first thing I'd like to say is that this isn't a parable like the Good Shepherd or the prodigal son, where you kind of try to figure out who might be God in the story, or who might be Jesus, or the people of Israel, or ourselves. This one doesn't work like that. Simply, Jesus points to people in the real world and how they're behaving, and he invites us to observe it and to learn from it. The rich man calls the manager in to give him his notice. Give an account of your management, meaning give a final report of where things stand, and then turn over the accounting books to the master. The steward is being fired. But until he turns in the books, he's officially still the manager, and he can act legally on behalf of his master. And that's why nowadays, don't we? If someone gets sacked, they get them to clear out their desk right away, turn in their computer and keys, and they leave the building escorted by security, so they can't do anything else. So what happened in our story today? The dishonest steward, in his final working hours, calls in his master's debtors one by one, and he instructs them to change from the full amount owed to a lower amount and write it in their own hand. This has several implications. The steward has the legal power to act for his master, and so what he's done, although it's dishonest, it is legal. The steward is now seen as a friend and a patron by the debtors, maybe not as a trusted friend, but a friend nonetheless. It isn't his own handwriting, but theirs that's made the change. Notice how clever that is. No comeback on him. It's his word against theirs, and they had the most to gain from it. He doesn't benefit from it. Now, many commentaries suggest that what was happening here was something very clever, that perhaps the master himself had been taking money in an underhand way, and against the Jewish law, he'd been maybe making interest on his money. And if that was so, it's possible that what the manager deducted from each bill was the illegal interest that the master had been charging. If he reduced each bill to the principal amount, the first amount that each debtor owed, the debtors would be delighted, wouldn't they? But the master couldn't lay a charge against him without owning up to his own dishonesty. The master had undone himself. He could only admire the dishonest manager's clever approach. You might say, as one shrewd man to a shrewder one, he grudgingly commends him. Here's a story for you. A poor man was caught stealing, and he was ordered by the king to be hanged. On the way to the gallows, he told the governor that he had a wonderful secret, and it would be such a shame if he were to die with that secret, and he'd like to tell it to the king. He would put a seed in the ground with the secret told him by his father. He would make it grow and bear fruit overnight. The thief was brought to the palace of the king, and there he dug a hole to plant the seed, with the king and all his officials in attendance. Suddenly the thief paused. He said, "There's just one thing. The seed can only be planted by someone who's never taken or kept anything that doesn't belong to him. I can't plant it." So the officials and the king, they paled and they shuffled. And even the king said he had kept something that belonged to his father. The thief said, "So you who are almighty and powerful cannot plant the seed. And I, who've stolen a little because I was starving, am to be hanged." King, who was pleased with the ruse of the thief, pardoned him, and he went free. Now, what if we were to change that story and say the seed can only be planted by someone who's never mishandled their money, never been ungenerous to the poor, and never put money before God? How many of us would be able to step forward? For the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. Jesus says, "I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings." So let me ask you, when is the worldly wealth gone? When does it happen that we lose all our worldly wealth? Any answers? Don't be afraid to speak it out.
When we die.
When we die. When we lose this mortal coil and shift off. Because Jesus says, at that point, if we've done the right thing, we will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. There are no eternal dwellings except in heaven. And as people of the light, he's saying, learn from the ways of the world, like the shrewd manager, but use your money. He's not recommending we be dishonest. He's not saying we should be like that manager, but he's saying, perhaps, to use that as an analogy, use your money and what you've been given for God's purpose, for God's kingdom, to make friends on earth who will be your friends in heaven, where it really counts in the end. Open your home. Give hospitality. And give hospitality not just to friends who are going to invite you back a month or so later, but to those in need, not just those who pay you back. Hospitality which acknowledges the truth that all we have comes from God, so we must be generous with it. It must be a hospitality that heals and sets others free. The Gospels tell us so many times, when you give freely. Expect nothing in return. Remember what Jesus said earlier, a few weeks ago in the Gospel. He said, when you give a dinner or a banquet, do not invite your friends or your brothers or your relatives or rich neighbors, lest they also invite you in return and you be repaid. But when you give a feast, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed, because they cannot repay you. Then you will be repaid at the resurrection of the just. And I think I said at the time, we can interpret the poor, the crippled, the lame in a more wider than just those categories, to those in need. And I actually think this is something we can all do. We can open our hearts with the love and generosity that God has already given to us and give that to other people so that it flows from Him through us. We can do it. And Jesus promises that if you can be trusted with the little that you have, you will be entrusted with true heavenly riches. So let's do it.